At my sister's engagement, my family called me a genetic dead end and a defective charity case no woman would want. They laughed while I quietly recorded everything. Now it's 3 a.m. and they're begging at my door, screaming they'd do anything last Saturday night. I stood in my parents' kitchen in Portland, Oregon, staring at my phone, my hand shaking so bad I almost dropped it. The voice recorder app was still running, blinking red at the top of my screen. For hours of audio, including the 10 minutes that shattered how I saw my entire family. It started with my dad's voice, calm, familiar, steady, saying, "No woman wants a man who's broken. He's 35, single, and still playing house alone." Then laughter. My mom's, my aunt's, my sister's. My name sprinkled through their sentences like dirt they couldn't wait to bury me under. If you'd walked in at that moment, you would have thought everything was normal. Music playing from the backyard, fairy lights strung across the fence, laughter spilling out of every corner. It was supposed to be a celebration. My sister Haley's engagement to her boyfriend, Daniel. 50 people, catered dinner, champagne fountains, the whole suburban dream. And me? I was the one setting up tables, hauling chairs, hanging lights. Like always, I didn't even mean to record anything. I'd been using the app earlier that morning for a work presentation and forgot to close it. But that accident ended up exposing the truth I'd been avoiding for years, that to my own family, I wasn't a person. I was a tool, a convenient pair of hands they could use until they broke me down completely. I listened to them destroy me in real time. My aunt joked I was a charity project in gym clothes. My mom said I gave up on life when Evan died, like my little brother's death had infected me. And my sister? She laughed and said, "Well, at least Mason's good for moving furniture." Daniel, the golden fiancé, chimed in too. "Every family needs its cautionary tale," he said. "Makes the rest of us look better." That's when I stopped breathing for a second. My pulse went cold. These were the people I'd given everything to. Every move, every repair, every holiday, every late-night favor. All of it. I stayed quiet, set up the party, smiled for the photos, clinked champagne glasses and pretended nothing was wrong. But inside, something in me was snapping loose. When I got home that night, I sat on the floor of my apartment and listened to the whole thing. Every word, every laugh, every insult. Over and over, until it didn't even sound like my family anymore. Then I saved it. 3 copies. One in the cloud, one on my laptop, one on a flash drive hidden inside a book on my shelf. Because I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to let this slide. But before I could burn everything down, I needed to understand how it got this bad. Why they saw me this way. Why they felt so comfortable tearing me apart when they thought I wasn't listening. So yeah, this isn't a story about one bad night. This is a story about years of quiet humiliation that finally hit its breaking point. And when I tell you what came next, the way they reacted when I made them face their own words, you'll understand why revenge wasn't just satisfying. It was necessary. I guess it started long before that recording. I just didn't want to see it. Growing up in a small suburb outside Portland, I was the middle child in what everyone thought was a perfect family. My dad, Greg, was an engineer who believed in earning your worth. My mom, Denise, taught middle school English and had this way of disguising her insults as life advice. My older sister, Haley, was the golden girl, straight A's, homecoming queen, ended up in marketing, good looks, better timing. And my younger brother, Evan, he was the favorite. Always, even after he died. When Evan's car accident happened 3 years ago, it broke something in all of us. Or maybe just revealed what was already cracked. He was 28, newly married, 2 kids, the golden son who did everything right. I was 32, single, still figuring things out, working as a regional manager for a logistics company. Not rich, not failing, just average. But to my parents, average was a polite word for waste of potential. The months after Evan's funeral were hell. My mom stopped calling me Mason. For a while, just you. My dad barely talked unless it was about fixing something around the house. Haley moved home for a few months and acted like she was the glue keeping everyone together, when really she just needed a new audience for her drama. And me? I tried to help, I spent weekends cleaning out Evan's house with my dad. I ran errands for my mom, fixed up her garden, replaced light fixtures, drove Haley to appointments. Anything that might make them see I was trying to hold the family together. Instead, I became useful. That's all. If something broke, I was there. When Haley moved apartments, I was there. When my parents wanted the backyard redone for summer barbecues, I was there. They'd thank me, sure, but always with that tone that said, "This is what you're good for, right?" Manual stuff. The easy stuff. It wasn't until a few months ago that I realized how transactional it all was. I'd just gotten my second promotion at work, started going to the gym regularly, finally got a decent apartment near downtown. I invited my family over for dinner to celebrate. They came, ate, smiled. But the entire night, not one of them asked about my job. Not one. My mom commented on my empty fridge. Haley joked about my bachelor pad vibes. And my dad asked if I was ever planning to grow up and settle down. That was it. I used to think it was just their way. Families tease each other, right? But teasing stops being love when it's only ever punching one way. The night of the engagement party, when I heard their voices, the mockery, the disgust, it wasn't new. It was just confirmation of everything I'd ignored. After Evan died, I became the placeholder, the leftover son, the one they could mold into whatever version of usefulness they needed. And somewhere along the line, they stopped seeing me as a person at all. That's what the recording proved. It wasn't a one-off slip. It was who they were when I wasn't watching. But here's where things get interesting. That recording didn't just open my eyes. It gave me something powerful. Evidence. And I had no idea yet how deep the rot went, or what secrets that family had been keeping from me, long before that party. Because the truth is, what I heard that night was only half of what they'd done. For the first few days after the engagement party, I didn't say a word. Not to anyone. Not even to my best friend, Jonah, who's known me since high school. I just kept listening to that recording, over and over, until every voice burned into my brain. Then my mom texted Monday morning, "Hey sweetie, can you come by Saturday to help us move some furniture? Dad's back is acting up again." Normally, I would have said yes immediately, but this time I just stared at the message until my jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Then I typed back, "No, I'm not available anymore for manual labor." She sent back a confused emoji and a follow-up, "What's wrong, honey? Are you okay?" That made me laugh. Are you okay? If she knew what I'd heard, she'd be begging for more than that. By Wednesday, Haley called. "Hey, Mason," she said, all fake sweetness. "Can you help me pick up decorations for the wedding? Daniel and I need someone with a truck." I told her no. She paused. No as in you're busy? Or no as in you're being dramatic again? That word, again, made something snap in me. No as in figure it out yourself, I said and hung up. By Friday, my dad called, his voice all gravel and irritation. "What's going on with you lately, son? Your mother says you've been acting difficult." "I'm not acting," I told him. "I'm done being the free help." He went quiet for a second, then said, "Family helps family." "Yeah," I said, "but it's only family when it benefits you." He hung up, and I swear, I smiled for the first time in days. That weekend, the texts started rolling in from my aunt, my mom, even my cousin. Apparently, the family grapevine was in full swing. Mason's having a breakdown. Mason's bitter. Mason's jealous of Haley's engagement. They weren't wrong about one thing, I was bitter. Just not for the reasons they thought. But the more they panicked, the more I realized something. They couldn't function without me. Every time something needed to be done, moving, cleaning, fixing, building, I'd been their first call. And now that I was gone, the whole machine was breaking down. By the next week, my dad showed up at my apartment. Unannounced. It was 8 a.m. Saturday, and I was still in gym shorts when I opened the door. He didn't even say hello. "Mason, this is ridiculous," he said. "Your mother's worried sick. What's gotten into you?" I just looked at him. "I heard what you said at the party." His face shifted, not confusion. Recognition. He knew exactly what I was talking about. But he played dumb. "What do you mean?" I stared right at him. "I mean, I heard you call me a genetic dead end. He froze for a full 5 seconds. Then he said the most cowardly thing imaginable. You weren't supposed to hear that. Not I didn't mean it. Not I'm sorry. Just that. That's when I realized they didn't regret what they said. They regretted getting caught. And that's when the idea started forming in my head. A slow, sharp kind of clarity. If they wanted to treat me like a background character in their perfect little story, fine. But I was about to rewrite the ending. And I wasn't going to do it with yelling or revenge porn or some impulsive blow-up. No, I was going to do it with control. With precision. Because what they didn't know was that the recording wasn't my only weapon. I had something else. Something I found later that week while looking for an old family document. Something that would flip their entire world upside down. A secret Evan left behind. It started with a locked box. 3 days after my dad's little doorstep performance, I drove to my parents' house while they were at work. I still had a spare key because of course I did. I'd been their on-call handyman for years, always needing access, just in case. This time it was for something else. I told myself I only wanted to grab a few old photos of Evan. Something to remind me of when things were simpler. But when I opened his old bedroom closet, I saw a black lockbox shoved behind a stack of his old clothes. His name was scrawled across the top in fading silver Sharpie. It wasn't locked. Inside were papers. Dozens of them. Receipts, printouts, handwritten notes. Evan's neat handwriting on yellow legal pads. It looked like he'd been documenting something. The top sheet had my parents' names on it. The heading said, "The Loan Agreement." I started reading. Turns out, 2 years before his death, Evan had lent my dad $80,000. Not a small sum, especially for someone with 2 kids and a mortgage. The agreement said the money was supposed to be temporary, to help my parents cover an investment loss. There was a note scribbled in the margin. Don't tell Mason until it's paid back. I felt my stomach drop. I flipped through the rest. There were bank statements, proof of transfers, even text screenshots. It wasn't an investment loss. It was my dad's gambling debt. He'd been betting online for years and was deep in the hole. Evan had bailed him out. And from the looks of it, my mom had known. She'd signed the agreement as a witness. So that's why they idolized Evan. Why they couldn't stop worshiping his memory. He hadn't just been their golden child. He'd been their savior, their financial lifeline. But what really gutted me was the date at the bottom of the last page. 1 week before the car accident. And scrawled in the corner, in Evan's handwriting, they promised to pay it back in full this year. I'm keeping this in case I need leverage. Leverage. That word burned into me. I sat there on Evan's old bed, staring at the papers, feeling everything shift inside me. 4 years. I'd been the family's fallback guy, the manual labor, the genetic dead end. But the truth was, my dad had been hiding a secret that could ruin everything. And now I had proof. When my parents came home that evening, I'd already left. I took the documents with me and locked them in my desk drawer. That night I didn't sleep. I just kept thinking about how my dad's gambling had nearly destroyed us, and how Evan, even in death, was still the hero. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calculating. The next morning, I texted my sister Haley. We need to talk about something. About Evan. She replied instantly, Can it wait? Daniel and I are busy with the venue today. No, I texted. It can't. When she finally met me at a cafe downtown, she looked annoyed, like I was interrupting her royal schedule. I handed her one of the papers. When she saw the $80,000 figure, her face drained. Where did you get this? Evan's lockbox, I said. Dad borrowed money. Never told anyone. She stared at the page, then whispered. He told me they took out a small loan to fix the house. Yeah, I said. Try again. She sat back, speechless. For once, she didn't have a snide comment ready. Then she said something that caught me completely off guard. I think Mom knew he'd never pay Evan back, she said. She told me not to bring it up. Said it would complicate family peace. I just stared at her. You knew. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. That's when everything clicked into place. The resentment, the mockery, The way they'd all treated me like I was beneath them, because deep down they were guilty, and guilt needs somewhere to hide. So they buried it under jokes about me, under contempt, under every harmless comment that made me the family loser. They weren't laughing at me, they were protecting themselves. That's when I decided the recording wasn't enough. I wasn't just going to make them hear what they said. I was going to make them choke on the truth they'd buried with my brother. And the wedding? That was going to be my stage. The day I decided to destroy the illusion was the day the invitations arrived. A gold envelope slid under my apartment door. Embossed script, perfect calligraphy. The wedding of Haley Patterson and Daniel Cole, July 14th. Formal dress. Outdoor ceremony. Reception at the Evergreen House. I stared at it for a while before tossing it on the table. My first thought wasn't should I go? It was how do I make them finally see what they've done? That night, I pulled out both sets of evidence, the recording and the loan documents. On one side, their laughter, their mockery, every cruel word they said when they thought I wasn't listening. On the other, the dirty secret they'd buried with Evan. I knew I couldn't just play the recording and walk away. That would be too easy for them to twist. They'd call me emotional, petty, bitter. No, I wanted control. I wanted truth laid bare in front of the people they were so desperate to impress. I wanted their perfect image shattered in a way that could never be rebuilt. So I started planning. First step, I printed a clean transcript of the recorded conversation. Every line labeled with names and timestamps. I formatted it like a script, even added a header. A family discussion, June 3rd, 2025. Location, kitchen. Unaware of recording. Then I took the financial papers, the loan agreement, the bank transfers, and copied those too. I blacked out sensitive info, left just enough visible. $80,000, my dad's signature, Evan's handwriting. Finally, I compiled everything into a single digital file, labeled The Patterson Legacy. I uploaded it to a cloud drive, scheduled an automatic email delivery to Haley's wedding guests using a timed send program I'd found online. If I didn't disable it before the ceremony ended, every guest on that list would receive the truth, the recording and the documents, directly in their inbox. I didn't plan to actually press send. Not yet. The point wasn't chaos, it was leverage. Then I reached out to Daniel. I told him I needed to talk before the wedding. He sounded confused but agreed to meet for coffee. When I showed him the loan documents, his whole demeanor changed. He asked if Haley knew, and I told him yes. She'd known part of it. He rubbed his temples, muttering that this could destroy her parents' reputation. I just said, good. Then I told him about the recording. He went pale. Mason, you can't. This'll ruin them. I looked at him dead on. They already ruined me. That shut him up. A few days later, I texted Haley, I'll be at the wedding, but things are going to be different. She replied instantly, please, Mason, don't start anything. This is supposed to be a happy day. I didn't respond, because I wasn't planning to start anything. I was going to finish it. Over the next week, I rehearsed what I'd say, calm, direct, unshakable. I imagined their faces when they realized the depth of what I knew. The recording was my truth. The debt was my power. And that wedding, full of extended family, business partners, and lifelong friends, was the perfect stage to expose both. But as the date crept closer, something strange happened. Daniel texted me again, not to warn me, but to meet up. He said he'd found something I needed to see before the wedding. Something about Evan. At first, I thought it was just guilt. Maybe he wanted to talk me out of it. But when I met him, the look in his eyes wasn't nervous. It was afraid. He slid a flash drive across the table. I found this in Haley's laptop bag, he said. You need to see what's on it before you do anything. When I asked what it was, he just said quietly, it changes everything you think you know about your brother's accident. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in front of my laptop with that flash drive in my hand, just staring at it. Daniel had looked terrified when he gave it to me. Not guilty, not scheming. Terrified. That alone made my stomach twist. It was nearly 2 a.m. when I finally plugged it in. There were 3 files. 2 PDFs labeled insurance, and one video file titled Accident Footage, Raw. My chest tightened. I opened the PDFs first. They were insurance documents, life insurance. Both my parents listed as beneficiaries on a $500,000 policy under Evan's name. It was dated 6 months before his death. The signature line was Evan's, or at least it looked like it. Then came the kicker. The policy had been increased from $100,000 to $500,000 just 3 weeks before the crash. And the agent who processed it? My dad's friend, from his old engineering firm. I felt my pulse climbing, my hands shaking. I clicked on the video file next. It was shaky phone footage from a roadside camera, the kind you'd get from someone who arrived right after a crash. The police report had said it was a rainy night, single-car accident, driver lost control. But what the video showed didn't look like that. Evan's car wasn't skidding wildly, it was jerking, like something was wrong with the steering. He hit the guardrail hard, front end first, sparks flying. Then silence. Smoke. But there was one detail that made my breath stop cold. The hood was already half open when the car went off the road, like it hadn't been properly latched. I paused the video, zoomed in on the timestamp. The file had been recorded by a witness who'd pulled the footage from a dashcam and emailed it to my father after the investigation. I could see the email header on the thumbnail. FYI, additional footage. So my dad had seen this. He knew. And judging from the timing of the insurance increase, maybe that wasn't all he'd known. I called Daniel immediately. He answered on the first ring. "Where did you find this?" I asked. "On Haley's laptop," he said quietly. She had a folder labeled Dad's Docs. I think she knew about the insurance. Maybe even the footage. My stomach twisted. "And she didn't say anything?" "No," he said. "I think your parents told her Evan took out the policy himself and she just believed it. Or wanted to." We sat in silence for a minute before he said something that changed how I saw everything. "There's an email in the PDF's metadata, Mason. From your dad to the insurance guy. The day after Evan's crash. He wrote, 'Thank you for processing everything so quickly. No shock. No grief. Just efficiency.' That's when it hit me. All those years they'd treated me like the broken one. The genetic dead end. The failure. And all along, they'd been hiding something sick. A truth they buried under grief and shame and mockery. They didn't just lose their perfect son. They cashed in on him. Couldn't even cry. It was beyond that. I felt this cold, heavy clarity settle over me. My dad's gambling debts, my mom's desperate loyalty, Haley's silence. It all fit together now. They'd built their new life, their new image, their perfect facade on blood money. And every time they laughed at me, every time they called me useless, it was because they needed me small, powerless. The son who didn't ask questions. Well, I had questions now, and I had proof. So I changed my plan. The wedding wasn't just going to be my revenge anymore. It was going to be Evan's justice. I spent the next day printing everything, the insurance documents, the email thread, stills from the crash footage. I uploaded the video to a private link with a single line of text at the top. "You said Evan was the golden child. Let's see why." Then I attached it to the same timed email as the recording and the loan files. That night I slept like a stone. Because by the end of Haley's wedding, the world was going to know what kind of people my parents really were. Haley's wedding day was pure theater. The evergreen house was strung with lights, white roses everywhere. A champagne bar glittering under the July sun. You'd never guess that the people smiling for photos had rot eating them from the inside. I stood in the back during the ceremony, dressed in black while everyone else wore light colors. When Haley and Daniel said their vows, I didn't hear a word. My heart was pounding so loud I could feel it in my teeth. The email timer was set for 8:30 p.m., the start of the speeches. After dinner, the band took a break, and my dad clinked his glass. He stood at the mic, beaming that perfect, proud father smile. "To Haley and Daniel," he said, voice rich with fake warmth. "We couldn't be prouder." Then he started talking about family, how we'd been through loss, how tragedy made us stronger. He even mentioned Evan, lowering his voice like a preacher. "We carry him with us every day," he said. His spirit guides this family. Something in me snapped. His spirit guides this family? No, his death funded it. I didn't make a scene. Not yet. I just stepped outside, pretending to take a call, and pulled up my phone. I hovered over the email scheduler, ready to hit send now, instead of waiting for 8:30. That's when Daniel found me. He looked pale, sweat beading on his forehead. "Mason," he whispered. "You were right. About everything." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" He handed me his phone. A text thread between him and my mother. "Mom, don't let Mason ruin this day. We've all sacrificed enough. Daniel, he knows about the insurance." "Mom, then you tell him it wasn't Greg's fault." "Daniel, what do you mean?" "Mom, he didn't want it to happen. He just needed time. The car wasn't supposed to crash." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. My mother knew. She knew. When I confronted Daniel, he whispered, "She told me last night. Said your dad just needed a delay on the policy. That he tampered with the car to disable it temporarily. He swore he'd fix it the next day." My hands went numb. "He said it was just to buy time," Daniel continued. "That he couldn't make the next payment to his bookie, and the collector was threatening to come after the family. He thought if the car broke down, Evan would cancel his business trip, and your dad could meet the payment deadline." I shook my head slowly, the pieces fitting in a way that made me sick. "So he loosened the latch?" Daniel nodded. "Your mom said he used it as leverage to make sure Evan would stay local. But Evan fixed things himself that morning. He didn't even tell anyone he was driving out of town." My stomach turned. It was a mistake. My father hadn't set out to kill him, but he'd risked his son's life to buy himself another week to pay off gambling debt. And when Evan died, instead of breaking, he profited. Doubled down on the lie. Took the payout and buried the guilt. And my mother helped him. That's why they turned on me after the accident. I wasn't just the disappointment. I was the mirror. The one who reminded them of what they'd done. Keeping me small made their guilt easier to live with. Every insult, every joke was a way to keep me from ever asking questions. Haley? She'd known pieces. She just looked away. That's what my family was. Not broken. Not grieving. Just guilty. By 8:28, I walked back inside, heart steady now. My mom was standing near the cake table, laughing with guests like nothing had ever happened. My dad was at the mic again, toasting family unity. I opened my phone, canceled the timer, and hit send manually. The email went out instantly. Every phone in the room started buzzing. At first, people thought it was some slideshow link. Then the murmurs started, first quiet, then sharp. Screens lit up. Faces turned. Chairs scraped. My dad froze at the mic. My mom's smile died mid-sentence. Haley's eyes darted toward me, and I just stood there, calm, watching everything unravel. Every guest in that room now had their secrets. Evan's death, the debt, the insults, sitting right in their inbox. They wanted family unity. They were about to get it in hell. The room erupted in seconds. Gasps, whispers. Someone dropped a champagne glass. I watched my father's hand tremble as he scrolled through his phone, his face draining of color. My mom took one look at hers and stumbled backward, muttering, "Oh God! Oh God!" The guests didn't know where to look. Some of them were old family friends, people who'd known us since we were kids. Others were Daniel's business partners, co-workers, people my parents had bragged to for months. Now they were reading words like gambling debt, insurance fraud, recording transcript, and tampered car latch. The whole room went quiet except for the music still playing softly in the background. Something ironic and sweet, like the universe was mocking them. My dad tried to speak, his voice cracking through the microphone. "There's been a misunderstanding," he said, sweat pouring down his forehead. "These are lies, taken out of context." Daniel cut him off. "No," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "It's not lies. It's the truth. I've seen the evidence." Haley turned on him like she'd been slapped. "Daniel, what the hell are you doing?" He looked at her, and something in his face, the tired disgust, told me their marriage was already dead. He said, "Your brother's not the one who ruined this family. Your parents are." That was it. The perfect silence. The moment I'd waited for. Every pair of eyes turned toward my parents. My mom started sobbing, grabbing at my dad's arm. He just stared at me, his jaw twitching, eyes full of this strange mix of hatred and fear. "You think you're a hero now?" he hissed, voice shaking. I stepped closer, lowered my voice so only he could hear. "No, Dad. I'm just not your pawn anymore." Then I walked out. Outside, the night air felt electric, like everything that had been buried for years had finally surfaced and shattered. I stood by my car, listening to the chaos echoing from the ballroom. It was strange how quiet my own head felt. No guilt, no anger, just this calm, steady clarity. By the next morning, the story had spread. Guests had shared the emails. Screenshots circulated. Someone sent the recording to a local journalist who'd once covered Evan's accident. Within 48 hours, there was an investigation reopening the case. Turns out, the insurance company had already flagged the payout as suspicious years ago but never pursued it. Now, with my documentation and the dashcam footage, they had reason to dig deeper. By the end of that week, my dad's employer put him on leave. My mom stopped answering calls. Haley sent one long text calling me a monster, saying I destroyed the family to get revenge for being ignored. I didn't respond, because I didn't destroy my family. I exposed them. The cops came around to ask questions. I gave them everything: the box, the emails, the drive. I didn't even have to embellish. The truth was already cruel enough. 2 months later, my father was charged with insurance fraud and obstruction. The investigation into Evan's death stayed open, though the DA called it criminal negligence. My mother avoided charges but lost her job at the school. Haley and Daniel called off the wedding legally before they even got their marriage certificate filed. He moved out the next week. As for me, I didn't go to court. Didn't need to. I just moved apartments, started therapy, kept my job, and stopped answering their calls. Sometimes I still think about Evan, how he must have known something wasn't right. Maybe that's why he kept the papers. Maybe he sensed what I'd have to finish for him one day. People talk about revenge like it's this blazing act of anger, like it burns hot. But that's not true. Real revenge is cold. It's methodical. It's the moment you stop asking to be seen and start making them see themselves. My parents built their world on lies and shame. I just turned on the lights. The last time I heard from my mom was a voicemail. Her voice broken. "Mason, you've ruined everything. I hope you're happy." I deleted it without listening to the rest. Because yeah, I am happy. Not because I ruined them, but because I finally stopped letting them ruin me. Evan's story didn't end with their silence. It ended with truth. And mine? It started the night I hit send.